Welcome back to Vibing with Stay Grayy. I'm glad that you have been listening in to the juicy message that you were discussing with Miss Bini. And in this episode, I'd like to focus on the academic pressures teenagers undergo and also the friendships, relationships pressure that they usually have going on in their lives. So, in the previous episode, we talked about teenagers' mental health and the neuroscience behind the teenage brain and why teenagers do what they do like currently. But in this session, I'd like to encourage you and inform you about academics and also how you can navigate the relationships and friendships at this time. So, Miss Penny, in our current state, we usually have like large friendships, right? We usually work in groupies. It's in this time that we like the company of our friends rather than our family members because our friends tell us what to do. They like hanging around us and we just have a good vibe with them. But now a time comes when some friendships are quite draining. They are toxic and some things just don't feel right within you. They don't feel right to do. And so in some teenagers, they find it hard to just say no to some other aspects of life. Probably their friend has invited them to a party and they find vape and then they are so afraid to say no because they'll be judged. Because their friends here are the ones who are giving them company. They're the ones telling them what to do every now and then. So how do teenagers handle friendships and relationships right now at the point that they don't get into toxic ones?
Yeah. I'll take us back to that moment where as human beings our fundamental fear, okay, is fear of death and fear of abandonment. Okay? Fear of abandonment comes from fear of rejection. And that is where our fear of always being included. Because if deep down as human beings, one of our biggest fear is fear of abandonment, because those days we used to be ostracized, if we did something out of ordinary, right? And that is how we are all wired. Okay, that also means that teenagers now, again, their prefrontal cortex is not developed, so they are emotional beings. For them, that need is spiraled even more, if it makes sense, if that's the right word. That means that they are constantly seeking validation. All right. And so I'll go back to that moment where you say that if you're more aligned, if you're discovering yourself, if you're able to unlearn your patterns, if you're able to be more honest and authentic to yourself, then you are looking around you and you don't need to be someone else to be liked. However, it isn't easy because that's not what the society has taught us. We are used to showing up where we don't feel good. Okay, so one of the biggest things it's a simple quiz, guys. I'm going to ask each of you who's listening, make a list of people who are your friends. Just make a list of people who are your friends. Write all of them. Let the list be 50. The groups that you said, let the list be 50. All right. Once you've made that list, look back at those names again. And next to that, try to write T or NT. T is toxic, not toxic.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And how do you know where this is toxic? Because it makes you now focus on your feelings. Sometimes you go through your phone book in your phone, your contacts, and look at which names make you feel like dead. In fact, scroll through your Instagram. Look at the pages. All right, look at the pages and look at even your friend's page may make you feel drained because you've somewhere compared yourself. Yeah. Your parents may have compared you to that friend. And so you constantly look at her page and feel small about yourself. If you're not feeling good, shed that friendship. 7 out of 10 times your friends are supposed to make you feel elevated, happy, all right? They're going to be your biggest supporter, but they're also going to be your biggest critic. They're going to be looking into your eyes and saying, dude, that is messed up, right? That's what friendship is about. Friendship is not about making you do something that you don't want to do, which you're going to be ashamed of 5 years from now. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, make a list of friends, look at what drains you, what doesn't drain you. People who drain you more often than not needs to be out. Now, that's a tough decision. And honestly, most of the people, even adults, don't have that courage to shed people in their life because it's that fundamental need of validation. Yeah. Right? That's where we unlearn the pattern. And that's where, when you start exploring yourself, you start being more authentic, you start taking risks, you start getting out of your comfort zone. If shedding a friendship is making you cringe, you're growing.
Oh.
Right? Always ask yourself, if this is draining me to an extent where, if it's draining you, that's different. But if it's making you cringe and you're like, I can't do this, but you do know 5 years from now, you'll be proud of yourself. So if it's making you uncomfortable, but your future self is going to be proud of you, then just do it. And it's not easy, but if you don't do it, then you're going to be stuck in a stagnant place. And in stagnant place, there's just muck.
Yeah.
So that's where your mental health shifts to, like, downward.
It's usually super hard to like shed off some friendships because you just look at the person and then say, what will they think of me?
And that's where you say that I made this list and you're draining me 7 out of 10 times and it's not helping. And I know this sounds crazy, but oh my God, I wish some of my mentees, if they are listening to this, they laugh, because I've made them do that. I've actually made them question their friendships and say, okay, please explain to me, how is this adding value to your life? And it takes about 5 to 6 sessions for them to be aligned and come back and say, yes, this is messing me up. All right, then how about you write a big long ass message and say, this is not okay. You joke in the name of jabbing me. You make me do things that makes me feel horrible about myself. And I'm not happy with this. And this is not okay. And this is not true friendship. And I make them write all of that. And they write. I don't make them. I ask them to connect with themselves and bring out whatever it is. Most of the time it is the truth. And when they write and I say send, they're not ready to send because it's scary. And I'm like, okay, don't send. We'll come back to this. And we'll come back to this. And we'll come. And then someday they send. And then when they send, the friend is in like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And like, no, but I need some time off. I really need some time off because your energy is not good. And Clara, I'm not kidding. I've had cases with teenagers I've heard these stories and they make me so proud. So there's this girl who actually walks up to another girl who's a good friend. So for example, it's you and me. We are really good friends. When I'm with you, we have fun. But then one day at break, I walk up to you and say, hey, Clara, look, I love your company, but is it okay? I mean, I've decided to unfollow you on Instagram. And so Clara asks, like, wow, why? Like, because every time I look at your Instagram page, it makes me feel smaller and I don't like that space. So, but I love you. I hope that's okay. Simple, guys. It's not that we don't love people, but it's okay to know that we are human beings. We are going to feel drained. And one thing which the world does not teach us is jealousy is a beautiful emotion. It's a most beautiful emotion because jealousy teaches us what we want and what we don't have. We are only jealous about things that honestly we don't have. And that's okay to say, I'm human and maybe I want that and I'm jealous today. But nobody says that. Nobody comes to a party saying, yay, I'm feeling jealous today. No, we don't say that. We're like, oh, we're just so perfect and I never feel jealous and I'm bigger than that person. Honestly, honestly, that's not the case. We stop accepting our dark side. We all have dark sides. We all have sides where we genuinely want to not be happy for others. And that's human. Like, that's absolutely human. But it's also okay to say that because that brings out your human side.
And is it okay to tell your friend that you are quite jealous of her or him?
Yeah, and it's absolutely okay. And instead of using the word, because see, the world is not ready to hear that word, if it makes sense. How many parents would accept their children saying, I'm jealous of this? They may still be jealous, but they won't bring it on surface and say, it's okay to be jealous. So if I were to come to you and say, I'm jealous of you, that sounds a negative thing. But if I were to come to you and say that, when you do this, it makes me realize that, oh my God, I have so much to do. But sometimes it's draining to constantly see you winning and I am not in a good place. So I'm not going to follow you on Instagram. Like, how about that? But I love it when I'm with you because our spirits are awesome.
Yeah, but what about this quote that says you should always play full out, don't dim your light for others to feel comfortable? So let's say that probably I'm excelling in something big, and when I'm with you, I don't want to like play it full out. I want to like down press my light so that you can feel comfortable. I don't want to outshine you or anything else. I don't want to talk about what I'm doing or my celebrations or my achievements. I just want to play it small. Is it right?
There is no right or wrong. There is no black or white. No quote is definite. Every quote has a multitude of understanding, right? One thing I'll tell you is that, let me give you an example. Do you know the number one thing in interviews okay, that people select you for. Whether it's an interview at Harvard, whether it's an interview for a job, whether it's an interview for anything. Number one thing that the other person looks in for you. Take a guess. Take a guess.
Your accomplishment.
No.
Competence.
No. Final guess.
Okay, that's one thing that the other person looks for in you.
To select you. To select you.
To select
Yeah.
me. Can it be character?
No. It is how you make them feel.
Oh.
How you make them feel. Guys, you have to remember this. This is one of the most important things. You could walk in an interview room and you'd have your certification right, you'd be an A-star student, you would have fallen down from heaven. But if you walk in with arrogance, that's going to work against you. If you make them feel that you've fallen down from heaven, it's going to work against. But when you go in with humility, with warmth, with compassion, with grace, and you use that because that's who you are, because what other people feels matter. That's where emotional maturity comes, right? So when you say that don't dim your light, you also have to remember that it can't be your birthday and I come to you and I'm all about, I got this and I'm doing this and you're like, okay, but today's my birthday. Can you just kind of, do you get me?
Yeah.
My first, it's that's what I'm saying. While I always say that be honest and be authentic, and then I come first, and that's not selfish, but I'm also saying that you also have to be compassionate, one, to yourself, and two, to the other person. So your words, you have to be mindful about how it makes the other person feel, but with that still doesn't mean that I'm not going to be my authentic self. Does that make sense? I know it's a push and pull of sorts.
Yeah.
All right. And it's also okay that if I come to you and I say that I love spending time with you, but when I see your pages, it kind of drains me. It's going to make you think differently of your pages. But that's on you. I've spoken my truth. Now it's on you to realize or not realize. You're on your own journey. So taking care of you in that space is not my job. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Right? So yeah, you're still going to be outlined. And you can't at all points make everyone happy. Right? But it's also okay to know that I'm not going to dim my shine, but I'm not going to push it to another level where I suddenly like hog the whole room, especially when it's someone else's day. Yeah?
Yeah, totally understood.
I mean, there's still a gray line there. There is still a gray line there, and I'll agree that there is a gray line there. Yeah.
There's a gray line, because according to the Instagram quote, some of them like going to contradict each other on what you're supposed to do. But the main thing is to be mindful of yourself and to the feelings of that other person.
Yeah, and mindful of yourself, be true to yourself, and yet the feelings of other person. And don't forget the power of energy. Don't forget the power of vibe. I can come today and I can feel your vibe is off. If I'm connected to myself, if I meditate, if I journal, I will immediately understand the energy in the room. Most often than not, if you are in that space, you will pick on that energy and bring it to fore.
Yeah.
A lot of other people feel it in their gut, but they let it be because their mind is driving them, right? So they don't bring it and say, hey, when I said this, I saw you like a bit off. Are we okay?
Yeah.
Bring it out. It's such a sweet and simple conversation. You feel it. You feel it when by your words or by your actions, you've hurt someone. All right. And it's okay to know that when you felt it, just bring, if it's a good friend, go out and say, did I say something that, are we good?
Yeah, actually.
Feel the energy, and be open about it, because we are supposed to be making mistakes. We're supposed to say something that upsets other person, and that's okay, as long as we address it.
Yeah, actually, many people find themselves in that situation whereby the other friend is acting passive-aggressive and they're not telling you what you did actually. So they're supposed to come to you and tell you honestly that when you said this, I didn't feel good about it. But the majority of people won't tell you, so they'll just keep it in and they'll end up hating you, unfortunately.
They will. But again, I don't blame people. I don't blame anyone to an extent, because we've all learned that from our parents. How many times have you seen parents either go to one extreme of aggression and yelling and shouting and or being passive aggressive? We've not seen the adults in our world have communications and conflicts which is addressed. Like, I have a problem with you. When you did this, you made me feel this. So then I'm not making about you and me. I'm talking about your action versus my feelings. No, that's not Clara. It's
Yeah.
Kiara's actions that can be changed.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It's Bini's feelings, and feelings are transition. Like, one thing I always tell people is feelings are like guests. They come for some time, you give them attention, you have to give your feelings attention, and then you say bye to them. Don't become your feelings. So you're going to feel pressure, you're going to feel you're not good enough, you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to feel sad, you're going to feel hurt, you're going to feel betrayed. But then you have to honor that feeling and say, okay, what is this feeling telling me really? Why am I feeling like this? Where is this coming from? Was I betrayed when I was young? Have I seen hurt have I seen people abandon me when I was young? You explore yourself, listen to that feeling, stay in that feeling for 90 seconds. Tell yourself, where is this feeling physically hurting me? Is it in my chest? Is it in my knees? Sometimes you see like teenagers constantly da 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 da.
Yeah.
That's anxiety to an extent. So just focus that, okay, wow, I'm feeling it here. And then allow it to pass through your body. 90 seconds is all it takes for your feeling of overwhelm to come, and then go. But if you honor it, you've actually allowed it to go out of your system rather than suppress it, and it becomes part of your body somewhere. And then we all become just walking, talking pain bodies. Our triggers are like 10 years ago. It's nothing to do with in the present moment. And they're all like, all the triggers are just, so anyone says something, you're like, ooh, like, why are you just like a bomb here, right? What happened? So we have to understand that we have to address those feelings. We have to bring it out. We have to give them honor and then let them go. Because you don't become your feelings. Feelings are transitional. Today I may agree to something and tomorrow I don't feel like doing that.
Yeah.
Feelings are transitional,
Yeah, so I like that you have approached that certain aspect of friendships, and that you said that we can shed off those friendships that are not.
Absolutely. Do it. I know you're going to tremble. I've seen my mentees like literally say, oh my God, I can't do this. And I'm like, okay, not today, tomorrow. We are still coming back to that. And we are still coming back to that. And then slowly the toxic people shed. Also remember, the more you do that, the more like-minded people come into your life. Because those places are occupied by toxicity. Then it's become like a toxic breeder kind of a space. Your whole relationship has become like a toxic breeding space. Everybody's gossiping, everybody's pulling one another down. The moment you remove that and clean up and declutter that space, then the real friendships come in. You're making space for the real friendships because you're working on yourself while you're doing that.
Yeah, actually, that's so amazing. And I'm glad that our audience now knows what to do in terms of their friendships and in terms of being in tune with yourself and actually decluttering some of the things that are not helpful for your life right now. So I'm going to hop into the next question about dealing with academic pressures right now at this age, whereby we all want to succeed, right? And some people are actually taking the white collar courses so as to look good, and just so that the society can see them as they are so super smart and they can do anything. Yeah, the validation.
Yeah.
Like honestly, right now I'm doing clinical medicine, and as I study in class, sometimes I usually just zoom out and just say, am I really in the right place? And honestly, that usually happens to me.
Yeah.
Certain time to time. Like I just ask myself, am I in the right place? And then I just start looking at my classmates. Like I just feel lost. Is this what I really wanted, or I just did it so as to get the term being a doctor? Was it like that genuine want in my life, or I just wanted to have something in my life that will give me validation despite of my past childhood traumas? I just wanted to feel good about it. So right now the academic pressures are too much. You're trying to balance friendships. In some other cases, other people are trying to balance the relationships and academics too, and also to live up to the expectations of the parent. Like you have to come to the house with an A. That's why you're in school, right?
Yeah,
that's the perception.
What is being told.
That's what is being told, but it's not necessarily the truth. So how do we navigate through
this? Is such a fun question, and if my family was watching this, they would laugh, because I think last 48 hours, all I've done is rant and whine about my dissertation. So it's in about 30 days from now. I'm in my last bit of my master's, and I'm doing my master's at 47 almost. So so that also means that you guys can be anything you want at whatever age. Let's not put an age bracket to your academics, number one. All right. Academic pressure is something that is self-created, is societal created, so it is going to stay. It's not going anywhere. Okay. Also understand fundamentally the education system that we are studying in today is about 100, 200 years old. Okay. Everything is just the same like it was during my time. Almost 80% of the things. That means children are getting ready in uniforms in most of the cases, going from classroom to classroom, and at a ring of a bell are taking their breaks. So it's more like a prison kind of a format, and people will hate me. Teachers and educational institutes may not like what I'm saying, but it is still the truth, right? However, the modern science says something else. Modern science, the evidence-based studies today, the child psychology theories today, in fact, facts, not even theories, but they say that a child is supposed to have enthusiasm, creativity, right? And that is where your child literally flourishes. But do our education systems have that? No. So eventually it's a bit of a capitalism market that you need to push them for the grades. So the school looks good, more admissions happen. Parents do that because they find their self-worth in their children. So if their child is doing medicine, my child is doing medicine, looks like I've done a great job at parenting. And that's the truth. And I'm not like being mean to any parent here, but all of us are conditioned to be that way, that we see our self-worth in how well our children are doing. Right? And so that's why it's a messed up space to be in for a child. However, it's here to stay. So that also means that you've got to fundamentally understand that there are different ways of studying. You need to understand what kind of a student are you. There are different tests available online to understand that. Are you a visual learner? Are you an experiential learner? And the moment you understand that, you find your own way to study. So not necessarily, although our schools are teaching it in a certain manner, you can go to Khan's Academy, you can go to YouTube, you can go to different formats to find and understand a concept. I work with these street children in Nakuru, and it's difficult sometimes with their backgrounds to excel in studies, right? And they're still being housed by this great board called SCAN, and the board's focus is just that these kids finish their education. How do you expect a child who's seen a lot of trauma and abuse in childhood to now suddenly excel in studies, right? So when I work with them, I actually sit with them and show them the YouTube videos. I tell them, okay, what grade are you in? I'm in Form 1. What topic are you struggling with? This. Let's just Google this topic, Form 1. And a great video comes up, and I show them, and then they listen. I'm like, wow, I never knew that this is how you could do it. So there are different formats available for you to learn, right? Make learning fun. Because the current education system is going to be the way it is if you are a student at this point of time. Number one. Number two, you guys know when your exams are there. So did I. I knew when my deadline for dissertation was, right? I had reasons and I had different priorities, but that still does not change the fact that I am getting pressured because I didn't do it right from day one. And it's okay to know that. So do not procrastinate, guys. You know your workload. You know when your exams are there. You know when your assessments are there. And if you genuinely make a schedule and have a goal and stick by it at least 70% of the time, you're going to be fine. Where is the space for pressure? Honestly, we are all pressurized because we procrastinate, right? So that's number two. Try to find a way where you understand that your procrastination is not a habit. It's basically generated from being demotivated or not being excited. Right? So you have to find a new way to study so you're excited, and then try to study and take actions and study so that you manage it. I know I will manage my dissertation, hopefully, fingers crossed. So that's there. So that's number two. Number three is, remember, a student, all right, has gotten an A for the last 6 years or 5 years or at least 2 years. Right? So if you are a C- student, lower down your expectation. Even parents, if you're a C- student, just look for a C or a C+. And then the next test you can aim for a B or a B-, or maybe just stay at C, and then after a couple of tests you move on to B-. That is the process. That's what I keep saying. Stay in your lane, look at your progress. Are you one bit better than your last time? If you're a one bit better than your last time, you're winning. And then a couple of years later, you will be an A student because you're focusing on getting that one grade better, 1 mark better, one step at a time. And even again, sometimes I've seen a kid with 7 A stars still having panic attacks and still dealing with a lot other mental health issues. So just because you get an A star and you look good and everybody's happy, deep down what you feel is what matters. So find a balance between that. Okay, I'll keep saying this, academic pressure is here to stay. I'll go back and say, go back to your meditation, go back to journaling, go back to scheduling, go back to making goals, go back to having your intentions, and go back to falling in love with yourself. Because on days when your parents say that, oh my God, you didn't get any star, but if you are in a habit of looking in the mirror into your eyes and saying, I believe in you, you're sorted.
Yeah.
You don't need that validation even from your parents, because sooner or later you're going to be an adult and it's your life.
Yeah, understood. And is this, the like students who usually transnight, like they read from, let's say, 10 p.m. in the evening to 2 a.m. in the morning, and keeping in mind that they have to wake up so early to read again, then go to class. Is that usually helpful or healthy?
Nope. I'll tell you, first of all, understand that there was a study that was done on teenagers' brain which said that teenagers are wired to sleep late and wake up late. That's how your brains are right now being wired. And by the time your brain is completely developed, you fall into that cycle of sleeping at a certain time and waking up at a certain time. However, the Education Institute is made where your school starts at 7 a.m. I wish that the school started at 12, but it doesn't, right? So that also means that number one thing for your mental health is always going to be 8 hours of sleep. That's non-negotiable, right? And I understand that you love to, some of the kids love to study in the night, in the quiet, but I've also seen children waking up at 3 a.m. and studying. You sleep at 8 and you wake up at 3. Now you've got to figure it out that whether you're going to study late, whether you're going to wake up early, but 8 hours of sleep is non-negotiable. You may think that, what is she saying? I do it all the time and look at my grades. But someday you'll have a panic attack. Someday your brain will freeze. Someday your brain will say, enough is enough. I'm not dealing with this.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you start changing those patterns right away.
Yeah, actually, I've passed through that. I'm usually an obsessive person when it comes to my grades. Like, I want to maintain to a certain grade. So I really have to do everything, even if it's starvation, even if it's like sleeping so late that I have to grasp that content. If I don't, I'll be a mess up. But there's a time where I had a total burnout. It's during an examination and you actually can't understand the questions. You are so sleepy, and that it didn't end up so well, actually.
But you learn from that.
Yeah, actually.
But you learn from that. And the fact that we are having this conversation is also making us realize that, oh wow, we are human beings and I messed up and maybe I learned from that and maybe I won't do that again. You know, and nobody tells us this is that we are human beings. We are not robots and we are not angels. We may feel that we are angels, but if we were really angels, we would be up in the heavens somewhere doing spiritual work. So we are human beings. That means as human beings, we are going to be suffering. And suffering is going to be a part of our life. It could be panic attacks. It could be having a dysfunctional family. It could be having, physical problems. It could be having mental health problems. Suffering is a part of our life. So you've got to embrace that factor. When it gets tough, you look at it and say, I'm a human being. I'm going to suffer. Okay, now I have to deal with this. Does that make sense?
It does. And thank you so much for coming to this discussion. And I'd like to ask if it is anything that you'd like to add to our audience or any sort of advice that will help them.
I think first of all, thank you so much, Clara, for inviting me. I loved being here today. For my audience, I'll again tell you a few simple things that at all points of time, you're going to be at crossroads, all right? And you're going to wonder, what am I doing? And the only thing that will give you that insight is ask yourself, does this make me happy in this moment, like internally happy, or is it instant gratification? Number two, ask yourself, will this make me happy 5 years from now, 10 years from now? And then ask yourself, would this make my parents feel happy and proud? So these three things are fundamental for any teenager. When in doubt, at crossroads, ask yourself, am I proud of myself? Is it making me happy? Will this make my future self proud? Will this make my future self happy? And last, will this make my parents proud? The yes to all of those answers means you're on the right path. A no means you need to shed toxic friends, whether it's changing patterns, but whatever it is, you need to choose the discomfort then for your growth. So thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bini, and thank you for my audience for tuning in and listening in. You just have to listen to this message, internalize it, and just be in tune with yourself. Right now, we've talked about how to handle toxic friendships and relationships and the peer pressures too, and also how to just navigate through that academic life. As you've heard, something that has truly touched me is that I have to get 8 hours of sleep. Actually, I needed to hear that because I'm at a point where I'm almost about to crash because of the workload that I have and studying for tests, that now I know that I have to get sleep. Success comes from understanding what you do and applying it. No matter how much you read or the books that you cover, you won't actually understand it if you don't apply it and just have that inner internalization. So that's it for today. I'm grateful for this session, and I'm hoping that our teens out there, you've learned so much from this session. As always, I'll be here for your transformation, and for more, you can visit my Insta platform or LinkedIn or Facebook. They're included in the screen right now, and so that you can get in touch with me. Let's have a conversation. Remember, I'm not that perfect person. I'm also trying to learn. I'm in that journey, and we can journey it together. So bye.